So I wanted to record a quick video tonight to talk about Cordova and why you may or may not need it in your mobile application. So if you're not familiar with Cordova, Cordova is a framework that you could use for essentially creating a mobile app that's based off of web technologies. In other words, you can develop your app like you would, say, a web application using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so there's very popular framework and set of tools you can use called Cordova. But there's another project called PhoneGap, which is actually based off of Cordova. It's also was very popular. And all these frameworks really do. There's another one called Ionic. Essentially they create a native application that's wrapped around a WebView, and then you just write your application just using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But you really don't need any of these frameworks. You can just do this using regular native applications. You can do it actually quite easily. So I wanted to just do a quick video and show how easy it is to actually build an application that uses a WebView. So let's go ahead and get started. And I have my Xcode opened up here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Xcode project. And I'm going to choose app here. And under the app, I'm going to call this WebView example 2. And I'm going to choose Storyboard and UIKit and Swift as the language here. There's an option here. It's usually default on most iOS application projects to set Swift UI. In this case, we're just going to use the Storyboard, even though we're not going to be using the Storyboard. So you want to select Storyboard, UI App Kit, and and Swift for the language. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. And it's generating. All right. So there's a couple things we need to do to go ahead and get this set up. The first thing we need to do is go over here into the info, and you'll see that there's this application scene manifest key, and this is actually quite extensive now. And this has to do with the UI scene sessions that are now available, I think since iOS 12. We don't need any of this stuff, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to select this key and delete it. So now it's gone. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the General tab, and you can see here that it created a main storyboard interface for us. We don't need that, so I'm just going to delete that. And that is gone. And so now that's gone, what I can do is I'm going to create a new view controller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new file, and I'm going to base it off of CocoaTouch class. And I'm going to call this WebView controller. And it's going to be a subclass of the UI view controller, and we're just going to do it in Swift. So I'll go ahead and click next, create, and so now we have this this new WebView controller class. And let me move that in here to my project. There we go. Okay, so now we have a project. This is just a simple base class here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a WebView. In order to do that, I need to import WebKit. So I'm going to say import WebKit. Now what I can do is I can say var, and we'll make this WebView. And it's going to be based off of the WK WebView. And I'm also going to make a string to hold the value of the URL that we want to use to load into this WebView. So what we'll do is we'll say URL string, and we will make this a string, and we're also going to make it an optional. Now we've done that, I'm going to create a new constructor here, and the way you do that in Swift is you say net, and I'm going to give this a parameter name of URL, set it to a string, and we have to call the super on the constructor here. And we're going to base this on the nib name. Set that to nil. And the bundle, we will also set that to nil. And now we've done that, I can come over here and I can say URL string is going to be equal to the URL, which is this value that's being passed into here. Now that I have that, the next thing we need to do is we need to override the load view. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to say override load view, and this is a function, func. And now we've done that, I'm going to call, let's see here, WebView. Let's do this first. Let's say super dot load view. And now we've done that, I'm going to take the WebView property I set up on top here, and I'm going to set this to a new WebView. So I'm going to say WK WebView. So now we set this to a new WebView. Now that I've done that, the next thing I want to do is I want to lay out this WebView here inside of the view. So what I want to do, just to kind of give us a quick shorthand here, is I'm going to say WebView translates auto resizing mask into constraints is equal to false. And now that I've done that, just to simplify some things here, I'm going to say take the view and make that equal to the web view. Alright, so got most of the stuff here that I need inside of this view controller. There's a couple of things in here that that are missing. So one of the things is going to be the required init. So I am just going to paste that in here for posterity. So now we have that. And I'm also going to set up some constraints in this web view, so it goes to the full size of the window or of the view. So let's do that. And let's format that. All right. And the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to make sure that we load that URL string into the web view. So let's come over here. I'm going to come in here into the web view and load that in. So what this is doing here is that it's actually taking the URL that's getting passed inside of the constructor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a URL from that and then create a URL request, and then in the web view I can call this load method, and what it'll do is it'll load this URL into the web view. So the last thing we need to do is come over here into the app delegate, and there's all this stuff in here for the UI session lifecycle. We don't need any of this, so I'm just going to delete this out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a window property, and we're going to make this UI window. And then what I can do is inside of the did finish with launching options is I'm going to create a new instance of this of the UI window. The way we can do that is I can say window is equal to UI window, and this is going to be let's see, this will be I want to set this to a frame of UI screen dot bounds. All right, now that I have that, next thing I need to do is I need to set the root view controller for this. So I'm going to say self dot window, and now I'm thinking about that, I also want to use self here as well, and we're going to say root view root view controller. That needs to be a capital C, and we're going to set this equal to our WebView controller with a URL. And in this case, I'm just going to point to my website. So I'm going to say HTTPS. And this is actually just points it to my website. And then the last thing I need to do is I need to make the key visible. So I'm going to say self.window make key and visible, and I have to spell visible correctly. There we go. And for some reason this is not recognizing my view controller, so let's just take a quick look here and see what that might be. Pause it here while I figure out what's going on. So I'm not necessarily sure why that wasn't running properly before, but I just opened up the project here in Xcode, and now everything seems to be recognizing correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to run this, and I'm gonna run this. Here's my simulator, and then boom, it's pulling up the website right there. And I can even come in here and use the navigation for the website, just using my HTML, CSS that I'm used to, and load this up right inside of here. So that is that's basically all you have to do in order to be able to run a WebView inside of an iOS application natively. And here I pointed to a specific endpoint, but you don't have to. You can actually load the content up locally, so you don't have to do that. I'm planning on doing a future video to show how to do this on Android as well. It's very simple to do on Android as well. With that, if you like this content, please subscribe to this channel. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, you can give me a thumbs down, but please just give me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithms. And with that, have a nice evening. We'll do more videos like this.